Most truck channels keep recycling the same old Kenworths and Peterbilts. But the real legends were the rigs nobody talks about anymore. The hand-built Canadian giants that hauled 100-ton logs through the Rockies. The aluminum-cabbed monsters that General Motors quietly killed off. The forgotten Ford long haulers that outpulled everything in their lane. These 10 obscure semi-trucks were engineered with ideas so brilliant their factories went out of business before the world caught up. Today we resurrect them. Let's dig in. Number 10. Kenworth K100 Aerodyne. We're not starting with the W900. We're starting with the truck Kenworth fans secretly miss the most, the K100 cabover. Two of Kenworth's most well-known models, the W900 and the K100, were both introduced in 1961, and the K in the name actually stood for Kent, one of the original founders of Kenworth. Here's where the genius shows. Both units featured free-fit bolted frames and bolted doors with piano-style hinges, meaning a damaged door or panel could be unbolted and replaced without major bodywork. In 1968, Kenworth released the K100C with a redesigned windshield, new headlights, and roof illumination. Fiberglass replaced metal for the engine tunnel, gas cap, and headlamp cover, improving thermal insulation and dropping weight at the same time. But the real masterstroke came in 1976. Kenworth released the K100 Aerodyne raised roof sleeper cab. According to Kenworth's official records, the K100 Aerodyne was the first sleeper cab with 7 feet of standing headroom manufactured in a factory. That was revolutionary. Drivers could finally stand up inside a cabover. The Aerodyne's upswept profile was specifically engineered to direct air up and around the tractor and trailer to reduce drag, which the company built directly into the cab structure rather than bolting on aerodynamic add-ons that could leak or weaken roof panels. The K100 starred as the red and white truck in the NBC television series BJ and the Bear, which premiered February 10, in 1977. A Kenworth K100 even transported a space shuttle. That's the kind of trust modern trucks can only dream of earning. But the smartest piece of K100 engineering was something modern truck builders abandoned completely. In 1986, Kenworth offered a special Liberty Edition K100E to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Statue of Liberty. These dark blue, red, and white striped limited editions came with full VAT interiors, wooden steering wheels, and almost every option as standard. The 86-inch Aerodyne version even introduced the first short BBC double-bunk cabover on the market, meaning 2 drivers could legally and comfortably sleep at the same time, doubling fleet productivity. Fleets that ran team drivers used K100 Aerodynes to run a load coast-to-coast in 2.5 days because one driver could rest in the bunk while the other drove. Try doing that in a modern Cascadia. Number 9. VOT LTL 9000 Louisville. Ford in the heavy truck game? Yes, and they were dangerous. The Ford L Series, also known as the Louisville line because it was assembled at Ford's Kentucky truck plant near Louisville, was produced from 1970. The flagship of the line was the LTL 9000, introduced in 1976 as Ford's direct competitor to the GMC General, Kenworth W900, Mack Superliner, and Peterbilt 35. Designed specifically for long-haul drivers, the LTL 9000 featured a set-forward front axle and a long hood. The engine bay accepted a Cummins NH230 standard, with Cummins N-Series options up to 350 horsepower and Caterpillar 3406 series engines up to 375 horsepower. Detroit diesel 8V71 variants, 6V92, and 8V92 turbocharged options were also available depending on the year. Here's the smart engineering. In 1981, Ford gave the LTL 9000 its own distinctive grille and headlight styling, and it was actually one of the first vehicles to use the Ford Blue Oval badge in North America. By 1992, Ford introduced the setback front axle Aeromax LLA and LTLA 9000 versions, with optional full-length chassis skirting and aerodynamic composite headlights, which were for the first time in any North American truck automotive style. When Ford sold the heavy truck line to Freightliner in 1996, the L Series was discontinued by Ford at the end of Freightliner kept the design alive under the Sterling Trucks brand, where it became the Sterling A-Line, Actera, and L-Line, until Sterling closed in 2009. That's how good the LTL 9000 was, even when Ford walked away. The design kept earning a paycheck for another decade. Number 8. Mack Cruise-Liner. WS and WS and WS. Most people know about the Mack Superliner, but almost nobody talks about its cabover sibling, the Mack Cruise-Liner. The Mack Cruise-Liner came in two main variants, the WS with a steel frame and the WL with an aluminum frame. They were built by Mack Weston at the Hayward, California assembly plant from 1975 to about 1983, and they were brilliantly engineered for one specific reason: to dominate West Coast trucking. The Cruise-Liner was offered in three different bumper-to-back-of-cab lengths: 54 inches, 76 inches, and 90 inches. That kind of customization let owner-operators pick exactly the right size for their application: short for tight maneuvering, long for sleeping comfort. Here's the genius. The Cruise-Liner could be ordered with the turbocharged and intercooled Maxodyne 300 series engine, designated the ENDT6. That was a 6.2 cubic inch inline-six diesel producing 285 horsepower and almost 1,100 pound-feet of torque. By modern standards, 285 horsepower sounds modest, but that monster torque rating is what made it pull mountains. The aluminum frame WL version was particularly smart. Aluminum dropped serious weight off the chassis, which directly increased legal payload, and for an owner-operator getting paid by the load, that translated straight into more money. The Cruise-Liner had a long steering shaft because the steering box was mounted on the front axle, an unusual setup that drivers actually praised for its directness. Cruise-Liners came with the gold Mack Bulldog hood ornament, which according to the Mack Trucks Historical Museum was introduced for the 1967 model year to indicate that the truck was equipped with both a Mack-built Maxodyne engine and a Maxotorque transmission. Later, the gold Bulldog came to mean a fully Mack powertrain. That was Mack's quality stamp, pure engineering pride, not marketing fluff. The Cruise-Liner replaced Mack's older F-model cabover, but it never gained the long-term traction Mack hoped for, and production wound down by the early 90s. Initial orders from West Coast fleets like PIE, IML, and ONC were strong, but the Cruise-Liner couldn't hold market share against Kenworth and Peterbilt cabovers in the long run. A truly underrated rig, and one of the smartest engineered cabovers nobody remembers. Number 7. GMC General. The GMC General is one of the most criminally forgotten trucks in American history. Produced by the GMC Truck and Coach Division of General Motors from 1977, the General was the largest conventional cab truck ever built by General Motors. It replaced the Chevrolet SLA GMC CM90-9500 trucks and was assembled in Pontiac, Michigan at Pontiac Central Assembly. Why was the General smart? Start with the cab. It was an all-aluminum cab built by Budd, the same company that built airplane and railcar bodies. Aluminum meant lighter weight, more legal payload, and zero rust, a critical advantage in the Salt Belt states where steel cabs got eaten alive within 10 years. The GMC General was offered in two hood configurations, of 108-inch BBC and a longer 116-inch BBC. Three cab options were available: a day cab, a 34-inch sleeper cab, and starting in 1985, a walk-in sleeper cab that gave drivers room to actually stand up and live in their truck. Here's a fact most people don't know. When introduced in 1977, the General was available from dealers as vehicle gliders. A glider is essentially a complete truck without an engine, transmission, and rear axles, designed so an owner could either reinstall an existing powertrain into a brand new chassis or further customize the truck beyond what the factory offered. That's smart. Modern manufacturers won't let you touch their wiring, much less build half a truck. In 1986, General Motors entered a joint venture with Volvo, leading GMC to end production of the General and the Astro cabover in The 1987 GMC General and the related Brigadier were the last heavy-duty trucks solely produced by General Motors, the end of an era. Number 6. Mack MH Ultraliner. Most Mack fans know the Superliner conventional, but almost nobody talks about the cabover that ran alongside it. The Mack MH Ultraliner, introduced in 1982, was Mack's most technologically advanced cabover ever built, and it featured an idea that no other truck manufacturer dared to copy. Here's the genius. The Ultraliner used what Mack called the Maxi-Glass cab. It was the industry's first fiberglass-only cab, built on a reinforced metal cage frame. The fiberglass body was reinforced with galvanized steel and aluminum, giving the cab three massive advantages. It defied rust and corrosion, it provided outstanding insulation from noise and weather, and it was easily repaired if damaged. Hit a deer with a steel cab and you're looking at thousands of dollars in bodywork. Hit one with a maxi-glass ultraliner cab, and a body shop could patch the fiberglass for a fraction of the cost. The ultraliner was offered in two main configurations: a day cab with a 59-inch bumper-to-back of cab dimension and a sleeper cab with a 90-inch BBC. Customers could choose 4 different interior trims and either round headlights or 4 square headlights. The most popular variant was the MH613, which came with the legendary Mack E9 V8 diesel producing 500 horsepower. Of the roughly 16,190 MH ultraliners ever built, an astounding 10,342 were MH613s with that E9 V8. Other engine options included Mack diesels from 250 to 440 horsepower, plus Cummins, Caterpillar, and Detroit diesel power plants. In 1985, Mack produced 250 limited edition Magnum models, 18.6 Superliner 2s, and 64 Ultraliners, all painted black with red Magnum lettering and red interiors, all powered by the E9 V8 with a 9-speed Mack T2090 transmission. These are some of the most collectible Macks ever built. The Ultraliner ended up being the last cabover long-haul truck Mack ever produced, the end of an era when American manufacturers built fiberglass cab semis with engineering this clever. Number 5. Autocar DC. The Autocar brand made its debut at the dawn of trucking, with the very first dedicated commercial vehicle rolling off the shop floor in that's not a typo, 1899. Almost the entire history of the American truck industry happened after Autocar started building rigs. In the century plus that followed, Autocar made its name building tough, specialized heavy-duty and severe-duty trucks for construction, utility, refuse, and other vocational applications. In 1953, White Trucks acquired Autocar. When Volvo acquired White in 1981, Autocar ended up under Volvo's umbrella. In 2000, Volvo Trucks North America produced its last original Autocar before the brand disappeared from highway trucks entirely. Why was the classic Autocar so smart? It was purpose-built. While Mack and Kenworth tried to make trucks for everybody, Autocar focused on extreme-duty applications, refuse hauling, dump trucks, construction site rigs, and yard tractors. Their trucks were built with massive frames, heavy axles, and engines specified for slow speed, high-torque work. Mechanics loved them because everything was accessible, oversized, and built to take abuse for decades rather than years. The Autocar reputation for indestructibility was so strong that the brand actually survived. When Volvo killed off the original Autocar conventionals in 2000, the name itself was acquired by Grand Vehicle Works Holdings, and Autocar continues to build trucks today, primarily for refuse, terminal, and severe-duty applications. So while the classic over-the-road Autocars are gone, the engineering philosophy lives on in modern vocational rigs. That's a legacy modern brands can only dream of. Number 4. Mack U-Series Command Cab. Now here's a truck most drivers have never even heard of. The Mack U-Series was a regular R-Series cab that Mack engineers redesigned with one wild idea: the offset cab. Mack called it the Command Cab. Here's how it worked. The driver's door of the U-Series was placed in the same vertical plane as the side of the trailer. That meant the driver could look straight back along the side of the trailer without any of the cab structure blocking the view. To make it work, the engine doghouse intruded into the passenger footwell, but the driver's seat and pedals stayed in their original position. The trade-off was zero compromise where it mattered most for the driver. Why was that smart? Because it solved one of the worst problems in heavy trucking: blind side maneuvering. Backing a 53-foot trailer into a tight loading dock, navigating logging roads, or working in dense urban environments all become dramatically easier when the driver can actually see down the side of the trailer. The U-Series replaced Mack's older C-Series with a bumper-to-back of cab length only 1 inch longer than the C, 89 inches versus 90. The U was offered only as a tractor, but Mack carried the offset cab concept over into the DM series, an extra heavy-duty version often used in 6x4 construction trucks. The DMM was an all-wheel drive version with a short hood, offset cab, and a setback front axle, requiring a specific fiberglass hood and fender design just for that model. That kind of innovation for vocational work has never been duplicated by modern manufacturers, and city and construction crews still talk about the command cab with reverence. Number 3. Pacific P12 and P16. Now we head to British Columbia, Canada, for one of the toughest trucks ever built, the Pacific. Pacific Truck and Trailer Limited was founded in Vancouver in 1947 by 3 former Hayes employees, Mac Billingsley, Vic Barclay, and Claude Thick. They built their first truck, a model called the EMAD, on a wharf at West Coast shipyards in Vancouver. Pacific was critically acclaimed for their hand-built quality and their ability to respond to custom requests. Every single Pacific was built to the customer's specifications. No two were identical. Their iconic models included the P9, a mid-size off-highway rig, the P10 and P12 heavy-haul legends used in Africa and North America, the P16 log hauler with its 16-inch solid I-beam frame, and the P22 ultra-heavy-duty payload monster. Here's what blows people's minds. The Pacific P12 could haul up to 860 tons with trailers, 860 tons. Modern over-the-road semis are limited to 80,000 pounds gross. Pacific built trucks that hauled 20 times that. They were used for moving entire buildings, refinery components, mining equipment, and full-grown old-growth logs the size of houses. In 1970, Pacific was sold to International Harvester, but Pacific kept full design and manufacturing control. International just handled worldwide sales. In the 1980s, IH sold Pacific to Inchcape Berhad of Singapore. In October 1991, the last production Pacific was built and the manufacturing plant was closed and torn down as worldwide demand for logging trucks decreased. By the end, Pacific had built only about 350 trucks, every single one a hand-built masterpiece. They're priceless today. Pacific's smart engineering went beyond just brute size. The P510 series was offered with either steel fenders, designated P510S, or fiberglass fenders, designated P510F, letting customers choose between maximum durability or weight savings depending on their job. In the mid-1980s, Allied Ready Mix of Richmond, British Columbia wanted to increase carrying capacity and approached every major manufacturer for a custom tandem steer truck. Every other manufacturer refused to interrupt their production line. Pacific said yes. They designed and built a tandem steer truck specifically for Allied based on the P510S platform, powered by a 400-horsepower Cummins and an Eaton Fuller 14708 LL transmission. That kind of customer service and engineering flexibility is something modern manufacturers can't even comprehend offering. Number 2. Brockway Husky. 700. The Brockway Motor Truck Company was founded by William Brockway, a businessman and cabinet maker who purchased a local carriage shop in Homer, New York in 1875. By 1912, his son George A. Brockway was building motor trucks in Cortland, New York, and Brockway became one of the most respected vocational truck names in America. Mack acquired Brockway in 1956, and even Mack admitted that Brockway trucks were special. Here's the genius. In May 1968, Overdrive magazine featured a Brockway on its cover and declared it the most rugged truck in the world. That's not a marketing slogan. That's a magazine that drove every truck on the road, giving Brockway the title. In 1974, Brockway introduced its all-new 700 series. The 700 was available with a traditional butterfly hood, with a fiberglass tilt hood becoming optional later. The 700 series used the basic design of the iconic Mack R-Series cab, manufactured by the Scheller Globe Company. But the cabs built for the Brockway 700 had specific engineering differences from the cabs built for Mack. Brockway models were available with engines from all major manufacturers, Cummins, Caterpillar, and Detroit Diesel, and could be configured for nearly any vocational job. The Brockway mascot was a husky dog. In 1957, the team chose the Alaskan Malamute after watching the popular television show Sergeant Preston of the Yukon. The first Husky hood ornament appeared on the model N2060TL in 1958. Trucks with all Brockway powertrains had 2 Husky dogs mounted on the grille, what Brockway called the Husky Drive System. In 1975, Brockway received an order for $22.6 million from Iran for 575 trucks to be delivered over 4 years. Distributorships were set up in Iran and other countries. Tragically, high operating costs and a labor dispute led Mack to close Brockway in 1977. But the trucks remain, and in Cortland, New York, the annual Brockway Truck Show draws hundreds of these legends back to their hometown every August. Number 1. Hayes HDX. The number one forgotten truck that was smarter than anything modern is the Hayes HDX. Hayes Manufacturing Company Limited was founded in Vancouver, British Columbia in 1920 by Douglas Hayes and W.E. Anderson. They were originally called Hayes Anderson Motor Company, and they sold truck parts for 2 years before they started building their own trucks. In 1935, Hayes added diesel engines to their lineup, becoming the first logging truck manufacturer in the world to do so. That alone is a brilliant footnote in trucking history. But the real legend started in 1952 when Hayes began manufacturing the HDX, the most successful truck the company ever built. The HDX was an exclusively off-road beast, designed for the most extreme heavy-duty applications imaginable. Logging old-growth timber in British Columbia required equipment unlike anything else on the continent. These trees were massive, sometimes 200 feet tall and weighing tons each. The HDX answered with brute mechanical engineering. Engine options included the legendary Detroit Diesel 12-volt 71, Allison 5960 transmissions, Clark 91,000-pound rear ends, and 14 to 15-foot bunks. The trucks were built with heavy-duty frame rails and all-steel cabs and hoods. They were tanks. In 1971, Hayes received its largest single order: 26 identical 100-ton logging trucks plus 50 100-ton pup trailers, all destined for the rugged Camano area of northwest British Columbia. The Hayes Clipper 100 cabover began rolling off the assembly line in January 1971, and the new heavy truck production line was formally inaugurated on February 16, 1971, attended by Canada's Federal Minister of Labour, Bryce McCasey, and Zenon C.R. Henson, chairman of Mack Trucks. Here's the heartbreak. The Signal Company acquired controlling interest in Hayes in 1969, renamed it Hayes Trucks in 1971, and in 1975, Signal sold the company to PACCAR, which closed the Hayes plants entirely. After 55 years of building Canada's toughest trucks, Hayes was killed off by its own parent company. But the HDX legend never died. Many Hayes HDX trucks are still working today on Vancouver Island, hauling logs the same way they did 50 years ago. Companies like Jenna Industries in Courtenay, British Columbia specialize in rebuilding Hayes HDX, Pacific P16, and Kenworth 850 off-highway heavy-haul trucks because no modern truck can match their durability or capacity. That's the real definition of smart engineering, building something that outlives the company that built it. If this video introduced you to a forgotten legend, smash that subscribe button, drop a comment with the rare truck you remember best, and I'll see you on the next one.